Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the Gemini Astrologer, and yes, this does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about how basically the Gemini Astrologer in general, their style and the way they may go about doing charts and things of that nature. Now, and how they are as astrologers. Now, the thing about this is, well, Gemini astrologer, if you connect with one, could of course be very lively, vivacious, and very loquacious when they give you, if you have like an in-person reading with a Gemini astrologer, they will talk often very rapidly, and again, they are very loquacious, almost downright garrulous at times, and they can they will often talk your ear off. You might actually get more bang for your buck, so to speak, with Geminis more so than the other signs, because they might go over that time that they said that they were going to give you, not charge you for that, because that wouldn't be on you. And say you paid for like an hour in-person reading, they go to like an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. So you understand what I'm saying. And Geminis, of course, could be very spirited and very animated, and the thing about this, they'll often do your chart with a lot of that youthful Gemini like exuberance. And when you have questions that are going to be questions pertaining to your astrological chart, they will often be answered very rapidly. You don't have to really worry about much procrastination in Gemini, or thinking mulling something over for a while, because Gemini, of course, is notorious for quick responses and reactions. So, and the thing is, they could often do your chart with lightning speed. But the thing is, Gemini, but you have to remember too that Gemini is the sign that doesn't like to be pinned down mentally. When they actually do your chart, they could do it very quickly. But just keep in mind that Gemini does not epitomize reliability exactly. And if you, I mean, the only drawback with Gemini is, or one of the few drawbacks with Gemini as an astrologer, is if you have a chart asking for it at a certain time, it may not always get done at that specific point, because Gemini likes to kind of darts around from this and to this, and about when they actually will do your chart, it will be done. They will actually work on it very rapidly at that, if you understand what I'm saying. So anyway, and the thing about Gemini is they will talk about numerous proponents of your chart, perhaps more elements or aspects to it than the average astrologer, and they will explain your charts often in a very verbose and eloquent manner. Gemini, of course, can be very articulate. They are the sign, of course, that is associated with communication in astrology. And the thing about Gemini too is that they are known for their mobility. They're very mobile. They more so than the other astrologers in terms of your general. I mean, Gemini is about short journeys, and they can be more so than the other astrologers on average, perhaps, to be willing to come out to you. If you're somebody that is, say, either debilitated, or you yourself have mobility issues or transportation restrictions or limitations, the Gemini astrologer may be the one that would often come to you more, because again, they're very adaptable, and they're also about short journeys and mobility, local transportation. So anyway, the thing about Gemini too, though, is what you have to understand. Gemini, of course, is very inquisitive, and if you're somebody that, say, you're a friend of a Gemini astrologer, but you don't really know him, and you were reluctant to get your chart done, this is the sign that will try to use that, I guess you could say, that fine art of trickeration to get that birth info out of you. Gemini, I mean, again, they can be very inquisitive, and it was interesting. There was one time, I mean, I have a Gemini moon, and I thought maybe this was my Gemini moon playing out, and I attempted to use that fine art of trickeration, so to speak. There was somebody that was stubbornly not wanting to relinquish or give out their birth date to me, and he told me he was a Gemini and he had said, I believe he said June. So I was able to narrow it down to like June 1st to about June 21st. So one day I walked into his place of business and I said, it was around maybe June 11th or 12th or something, and I said, well, how does it feel to be 48 years old? And he says, I'm not quite there yet, Eddie. So, and then he was like, oh, he couldn't, he was really flabbergasted. He figured out what I had done. Basically, by saying that and getting that response from him, I knew that he hadn't reached his birthday yet, and that it was like after the 12th or something, and it was between around maybe the 13th. Might have been between the 13th and the 21st, and eventually did get his birthday anyway. But the thing about it is, Geminis will, often do that, and they'll try to get your information whether you want to relinquish it or not. And the thing about Gemini in astrology too is I would say Gemini, of all the astrologers, on average, may be the most proficient in like the relocation branch of astrology, because Gemini again does correspond, is connected with short journeys. Now, some of you may heard of is a relocation astrologer named Julian Lee, who has a Gemini ascendant, and this is, and I'm sure he probably is very, very good and exceptional at what he does, given that he does have Gemini rising, and people that have Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, I would say will often could perhaps make the best relocation astrologist, because it is the sign that corresponds with short journeys. And now, relocation astrology, I don't know exactly how that works in terms of whether it's just short, as far as moving in your own country, or traversing out of your country, but many people move within their own country, which of course would fall under short journeys, and I'm sure your Gemini could be very good again at relocation astrology because of this. Now, another thing too, is that when you look at Gemini as astrologers as well, keep in mind that they are very mercurial, and as I stated before, they don't exactly epitomize reliability, because of what I refer to as not wanting to be pinned down syndrome. And Gemini also could be very contradictory. They might feel like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this and have this done on this day, and then something happens and they change their mind for whatever reason, and it might not be done till the next day. Now, the thing about Gemini is, of course, they're known to be very dexterous, and they are known for their dexterity. And I could see Gemini back in what I refer to as the prehensile days of astrology, when many people, including myself, we would draw up charts using a compass and a protractor, and do this by hand, more so, as in contrast to going on the computer and having the chart being generated online. Now, because of course it does require certain dexterity to use the compass and the protractor. I'm sure Gemini during that period was actually probably the best of all the zodiac signs on average, as far as that goes. And another thing too, about Gemini as well as an astrologer, they are about their variety. They're often very versatile, and I see Gemini astrologers more so than the average astrologer. It can be adept at many branches of astrology. They often will offer a variety of kinds of readings on their business page, if they do have them, whether it's transit, progression, natal, solar return charts, etc. And I mean, as far as branches go, of course, there's a multitude of them, and the Gemini astrologers can be involved in manifold branches of astrology, like including electional, mundane, relocation, that meteorological astrology, which of course is weather astrology, basically. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.